Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 379 for the to 380 for the 9 and 10 of March. Let's start off with the big information, which is actually the Ukrainian commander over at the Bakhmut region. It seems he's the commander of the ground forces, if I didn't remember wrongly, Alexander Syrsky. He acknowledged Prigozhin's statement. So previously I mentioned that Prigozhin did talk about there's a major offensive will happen if Bakhmut falls from the Russian side. And I'm not sure if I tell you that, but that is what Prigozhin say. And Alexander Syrsky actually quoted Prigozhin and say that this confirms that the importance of Wagner, and this will allow the Russians to be unleashed and launch a large-scale offensive using the army and amphibious unit of the Russian military. So he basically confirms that this is an important role of Bakhmut to hold that will allow the Ukrainians to prepare their reserve and for future offensive operations. So he also actually says that Wagner assault detachments is the most prepared and combat ready part of the Russian military. Something that Prigozhin only semi agree, and so it's very interesting that they are reacting to each other's statement. So whatever we are reading is indeed very, very huge. And the situation around the Bakhmut front, we have some developments. The Russian forces have captured the waste treatment facility. So this is like a wastewater treatment plant. The Russian forces have captured this plant, and then they are now attacking this region of the captured is now attacking the region of the metal processing plant, which is over here, where the Ukrainians have entrenched themselves very strongly. This plant region here is a lot like the Azov style of Mariupol, where there is underground tunnels and rooms, which allows heavy entrenchment within this region. So the information now we have is that the Russian forces is attacking into this area here. Fighting is now happening around the edge, probably at the edge of this plant. The Ryba, the pro-Russian source, do highlight that to capture this facility is very complicated due to bomb shelters and underground communication. So they already the pro-Russian side is definitely preempting that this is not going to be an easy fight. And fighting is also reported to seemingly have crossed the Zamutovka or how do you pronounce that? Zamutovka River. So I got it correct. So on the now the eastern front of the Bakhmut city. According to SITREP maps, they reported that the Russian forces, at least recon forces, have crossed the river and tried to establish some kind of a bridgehead of sorts, with the Russian forces crossing over, and they are fighting between this road and this road here. So according to SITREP maps mapping, they actually map it a bit like this. Let me zoom in further so yeah. So the Russian forces attacking, and they map it something like this. And I saw this information first on Twitter, and then it was actually then someone say it's fake news and everything. So not sure exactly what's happening, but it just shows the complicated nature of the eastern front of Bakhmut, because the Russian forces can literally cross at any area here. They can cross at any place, which means that the Ukrainian forces will have to defend across the entire riverfront and then that will actually spread out their forces instead of handling the main push that is coming from the south from Opitne direction. So that very interesting that the Russian forces is now pushing in, but I doubt this is actually going to I don't think this is going to hold. I think this is going to be just one-off probe and then they run away kind of thing. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry simply acknowledged that it's fighting at Bakhmut for both days. And we have also some information from Deep State UA that the Russian forces continue to try to attack at Kromove. So around this region here, the Russian forces is still trying to cut the road entirely. As mentioned previously, the road is now usable by the Ukrainians as they installed the pontoon crossing on this bridge that they actually blown up themselves. Kind of a waste of resources. And there is also geolocation of Russian forces at this location, which actually confirms that the previous information that the Russians have pushed through and captured at least this area. So this information is coming from Deep State UA, coming from Deep State UA, pro-Ukrainian sources, and fighting is currently for Bodanivka. The fighting is being reported on both days by Deep State UA and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry against this town of Bodanivka. So the Russian forces currently, pushing in this direction. And interesting thing also is Deep State UA considered that Dubovo-Vasilivka has been captured by the Russian forces, which allow me to move the border away from this area here back to where the Russian reports of the line is. And currently the fighting is now on the western outskirts of the town now, with the Russian forces continuing to try to push out from Dubovo-Vasilivka. Another interesting information is actually the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported fighting near Paraskovievka. Paraskovievka is actually, this town here that has been already captured by the Russian forces. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, dropped the name Paraskovievka, and is extremely unusual because there is not much ways that could be true. Because the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported fighting at Dubovo-Vasilivka. So, which means that the front line at least is here. And then they also reported fighting at Orikhovo-Vasilivka, which means that the front line is probably here. So how do you have fighting near Paraskovievka? Yeah, so it's kind of an unusual kind of situation. Sometimes Ukrainian Defense Ministry will drop names that makes no sense, and so you guys should be aware of that. It could be an attempt to confuse the readers. That maybe the situation is not as bad. Maybe if the fighting is around here. Previously they said fighting at Yakhivka. So Yakhine, sorry. Then sometimes they say fighting at Bakhmut. So it will kind of suggest that the front line is actually not here, but maybe the front line is actually still further up north in the area of Bakhmut. So yeah, just something that I thought it would be interesting to share. And in the north of Orikhovo-Vasilivka, SITREP Maps also reported some kind of a progress in the front line. Previously, when the line was actually here, the Russian forces have pushed forward and managed to capture probably most of this forested region here. And his front line actually looks like this on SITREP Maps. So the Russian forces is currently pushing out. Heavy fighting is also reported at Zalinianske. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported the fighting on the 9th and on the 10th. And south of Bakhmut, we have fighting at Ivaniske with reports of fighting by the Russian Defense Ministry and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So 9th and the 10th both is represented, with the Russian forces still fighting at Ivaniske. It's actually very unclear if the Wagner forces actually wants Ivaniske. I have some doubts, because they seem to be pushing elsewhere much harder than Ivaniske region. Of course, it could also be because of the Ukrainian forces is making a very strong push in this region, forcing the Russians from unable to push in this area here. So, if not, because if they capture Ivaniske, there's actually almost no ways for the Ukrainians to withdraw from Bakhmut anymore. And as many people have always say that the Russian strategy is never to encircle the entire of Bakhmut or any place. They want to allow the enemies to have a small road or a small exit. Some people call this the golden bridge to allow the withdrawal, but this will be also a massive trap that can cost them their lives. This might also be the case because the Ukrainians can't really move through Kramove very effectively without because due to the fire control and the mud. Oh my god, the mud! It's very hard to go through this area here, And so there might be a possibility that the Wagner forces deliberately, not want to break the road, and allow the Ukrainian forces to, exit the city. But no, I might be wrong. And also the last SITREP I also mentioned, I'm not sure where's the MiG-17 monument, is actually here. So this is the MiG-17 that was mentioned, and this MiG-17 monument has been destroyed. There is some huge debate on Twitter about this information, about who actually blown it up. The tweet is they actually blame on the Russians, saying the Russians actually blow up the monument. Yeah, I don't believe it. So anyway, and that's all from the Bakhmut front. And then another information is actually the Russian forces launching a massive missile strike on the Ukrainian forces, and this information is reported on the 9th of November. And this according to the Russian Defense Ministry, the attack is actually in response to the attack on Bryansk region. So previously we have mentioned that the Ukrainian forces actually attacked around this region here, Lubeshany. So the Ukrainian forces previously attacked into Lubeshany and Sushany, and they actually killed some people, and then they retreat back into Ukraine. So the Russian forces, this is not this is not sexual. I mean this don't look like anything. You shouldn't look at this at the wrong way. I'm just saying. And the Russian forces in response to the attack, organize and plan this massive missile strikes. And interestingly, other than the usual where they launch the missiles from all sort of platforms, including long-range air bombers from sea-based ships, as well as land-based weapons, they also launched Kinzhal, the hypersonic missile, to hit military infrastructures and in factories, and as well as energy facilities. From pro-Russian sources, the energy facilities mainly are the substations, and so it's not exactly the power stations. According to my understanding, the Russian forces will not attack power stations, because power stations take years to build, so they are attacking the substations which can be repaired easily. So basically the entire purpose is just a retaliation strike. I would say that it's a very, very expensive retaliation strike, that that the entire electrical system was only down for a few hours, and then I think everything is resumed. So it feels a bit unbalanced in terms of the expenditure versus the ROI, the return on investment. Another of the major fronts is actually in the Avdiivka region. So the Avdiivka region, there's fighting reported very heavily across the entire region. In fact, the fighting here seems to be even heavier than the fight in Bakhmut, with fighting reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry at Krasnohorivka on the 9th, and then on the 10th it was reported by Ryba. Kayamka also sees fighting on the 9th and the 10th, both reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. There's fighting reported at Avdiivka, also by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on both days. Fighting at Chervonopopivka, at Vodian. Vodian, the 9th is reported by the Ryba, but the 10th is reported by Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And then there's also fighting towards Tonenki. Tonenki is actually this town here, where the Russian forces apparently pushing in this direction. Previously, we have information that the Russian forces have made some breakthrough north of Vodian, and there's also fighting towards Chervonopopivka, which this is also towards Chervonopopivka. So it could be there could be some kind of new breakthrough around this area to for the Ukrainians to say Tonenki is under that attack in that direction. Fighting is also reported at Pervomaisky, according to the Russian Defense Ministry and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 9th and the 10th, and Nevelsky on the 9th and the 10th, both reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And bombardment is also reported at Semenivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. And if you look at this general picture, you will see that the Russian forces is attacking very heavily in this direction, in all directions, and this is, and you see the number of icons, the number of reports, it does suggest that the attack here is way more heavier than the one at Bakhmut. Ultimately, we are talking about the Russian Defense Ministry is conducting the fighting over here, and the other side is only the Wagner private military contractors with much more limited ammunition or equipment on their hand. The whereas on this area here, Russian Defense Ministry or the Russian forces actually have way more type of equipments and aircraft, of all sorts for their usage. So so this is definitely a front to watch. And I can tell you also another thing. This looks eerily similar to Bakhmut. If you look at the front, it looks like this. So now if you go to Bakhmut, previously before the breakthrough over at the Avdiivka region, it was also like this. So it looks exactly the same. So let's see how the Russian military perform in this area versus the Wagner group in this area. And it also, of course, highly dependent on the Ukrainian defense the Ukrainian forces reaction towards the fighting over this region here. And nearby there is a Ukrainian Mi-8 shot down over Novohorodivka on the 9th. And moving away from there, we now go to let's go to the Kreminna Front. At the Kreminna Front, there is fighting reported all over this region as usual, but the fighting here seems to be less intense than usual. There's fighting reported at Bilohorivka. At the Luhansk region, fighting is reported in the Serbyansky forestry on the 10th. I didn't see the information of the fighting on the 9th though. And so Russian forces is still pushing in this forestry region. Reportedly, according to a pro-Russian source, they said that the Russian forces have managed to capture some of these Ukrainian forces. So it might be doing very well. Bombardment at Dibrova, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, on the 9th and the 10th nearby. So Ukrainians are still holding a very strong line around Dibrova and refuse to retreat. And then we have bombardment at Toske, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, on the 9th, on Liman on the 10th, Yampolivka on the 10th, and also Nevsky on the 9th. And there is a geolocation of Russian forces at this position, which then forced the front line to be on the Ukrainian side to be actually pushed back. And according to multiple pro-Russian sources, the Ukrainians launched a counter attack at Chervonopopivka region, with Ukrainian forces launching an attack. So far, my understanding is that the attack has been repulsed. And then we have also fighting by the Russian forces in this region over at Nevsky and Terny. So information at Terny is by War Gonzo, the pro-Russian media, and then the one at Nevsky is by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And let's move on to Zaporizhia line. At the Zaporizhia region, there is a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Vinyansk or Vonyansk. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they said that they engaged in an aerial battle. So eventually this MiG-29 got shot down, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you support, over this region here. And I'm not sure how far, where is exactly the dogfight, or is it even a dogfight, because this is still the usual 40 kilometers from the front line kind of situation. So bombardment across the Zaporizhia line at Shebaki, Preobrazenka, and Huaypole, and these three major hub or position of the Russian Ukrainian forces has been bombarded by the Russian forces. And over at the Voleda region, so at the in the Donetsk Front, we have fighting reported at Voleda, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 9th. However, this is not reported by any pro-Russian information. There is no push being reported at all. And however, there is a geolocation by Deep State UA of Russian forces at this position, which then pushed the front line that was previously here to now here. And this shows that the Russian forces still have a presence in this region. They are refusing to give up the captures that they have earned with blood and salt. And bombardment is reported at Voleda on the 9th and the 10th. Both is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. The same bombardment was reported at Prigozhin, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, on the 9th. And over at the more closer to Donetsk City region, so as you can see, this is Donetsk City. There is fighting reported near Novomikhailivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on both days, probably pushing within this major farmland region. They're probably pushing this area here. And at the Marinka region, we have heavy fighting at Marinka on the 9th and on the 10th. Both is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And why is it heavy? How will I know? Because the Ukrainian forces actually sent a ground attack aircraft, the Sukhoi 27, and it got shot down by air defense. Sorry, by Air Force, by the Russian Air Force over Marinka. So this is very interesting because I haven't seen Ukrainian fighters or helicopters getting shot down in this area here by the Russian Air Force. Usually it's by surface to air missile. There's also fighting reported at Boyeda, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And further up north, we have fighting reported at Krasnohorivka. So the situation here, pretty much is the same as usual, with the Russian pushing in this area here. And there's some terrible arrows. Let's do it again. So in this area, and so it's pretty much the same situation. The front line have not really changed for months. So yeah, not exactly groundbreaking if you ask me. And what is the other news that we should see is at Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, we have fighting reported at Vasyukivka, according to the Deep State UA, on both day 9 and the 10th, and there is fighting reported at Fedorivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. These are all happening in the south of Siversk, where the major town of Siversk, which have a railway station, is positioned, which is why it's very important for the Russians not to capture this, because if they can capture this, transporting troops through railway line is one hell of a problem for the Ukrainians. And fighting is also reported at Spurny on the 10th, and the further up north is already reported, and of course there's shelling reported at Kryhorivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So there is fighting reported northwest of Bilohorivka, or north of Bilohorivka, with the Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, geolocating Russian forces at this location. This actually pushed the front line further up a bit more, with the Russian forces continue to follow these three lines heading towards Avdiivka. So Avdiivka is actually here, and it's going to be a very slow sneaking progress all the way to Avdiivka. But it's not like the Ukrainian forces can do much as well. They can only try to hold, and this entire area here is too open as well. Reinforcement and troop movements can be very tricky for the Ukrainians themselves. And we are now into Kupyansk Front. So at the Kupyansk and Svetove region, there is not much fighting being reported. Majorly, it's just shelling at Stemakivka. On both day 9 and the 10th, there's shelling reported at Tinkovka. There's shelling at Vilshana, at Peshatrafneve, Simkivka, and then at near the location of Kreminna, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. All shelling report is by the Russian Defense Ministry, because I don't report on shelling by other sources, because if I map them all, the whole map will be full of icons. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported fighting near Kreminna on the 10th, and also Masyutivka also see fighting on the 10th, which means that the Russian forces might actually still be pushing in this region here, and the Ukrainians are doing their best to hold these salients of this river. Sorry, I shouldn't use that color. The Oskil River is here, so the Ukrainian forces is still trying to hold this bridgehead, to prevent them to lose this entire position entirely. If not, then the front line will close up even further, putting advantage in the Russian hands. And that's all from the Kupyansk and Svetove fronts, and I believe I covered everything. So thank you for watching. Do press the subscribe button. This is a standing order. If you want to be part of the DPA army, you have to press the like button, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and share this video to everyone you know. And I'll see you in the next update.